Folks, welcome back from Thanksgiving. Ah, what a wonderful day it was. Well, unless you're Matt Eberflus. That wasn't too good. That was the most comical thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, I hate it. Like, I'm not a fan of men losing their jobs, them losing their livelihoods and ways to feed their families, put food on the table. All right. I work in the real world. I get it. If I got fired, yeah, it sucked. I've been fired. But man, that showing yesterday with 32 seconds left, and you have a chance to at least tie the game against the division leading rival on Thanksgiving, a team that has not beat you in 8 straight Thanksgivings. It is inexcusable to run one play in 32 seconds and then nothing happens. But nothing did happen. And then yet again, something did happen at the same time. Matt Eberflus went from being the topic of conversation on national radio broadcasts for the past week. I don't know who generated this narrative. We need to stop using AI so much because they kept spewing out Matt Eberflus goes 5-1. He should keep his job. I don't know why we refuse to look at recent history. This team was almost 5-2 until Stevenson, their goober DB, was just out there styling for the fans while the ball was in the air, and then he tipped it into the hands of the Redskins receiver. Oh, look at that Redskins win. Oh, you're not 5-2. Oh, but by the by, now you've lost 6 straight. This is a team that is unfocused. This is a team that has zero identity on the defensive side. Thank goodness for Thomas Brown coming in and now having been the OC and now the interim head coach. Maybe Caleb Williams can continue to develop, because what we saw from Caleb yesterday in the second half of that game, if you're a Bears fan, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the further development of this man, and hopefully Thomas Brown is the one that's behind it. Guys, again, welcome back from Thanksgiving. We are here on a special Friday edition of your Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores
and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, Box Scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
So, Manny, before we kick into the further discussion, why don't we cheers our way in to the episode? Cheers, my man. Cheers. Clink.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Happy Black Friday.
Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday. Ugh. So,
do you partake in the Black Friday festivities at any point in your? Do you wait?
I did.
Black Friday.
I did about like a decade ago once. And I'm like, this is dumb. This is the dumbest thing ever because nothing's really on sale. All they did was knock the price up artificially and then drop it artificially. And it was really just a big celebration for girl math. It's not even, I bought this on sale. It's not even, look how much I saved. Look how much money I made today. Look how much money I made by spending this much. Yeah. So, yeah. That's the girl math bought it yesterday. You got to spend money to make money. Yeah. So
that's right. Girl math at its finest.
I thought new math was bad. No, girl math is worse.
Wait till you hear about girl math. If you hate the new math for teaching your children, wait
till you hear about college football playoff math. Yeah, that's right. The
worst. Where standings and rankings don't matter. Speaking of college football, let's jump right into it. We are talking football today because there has been a lot of football that's happening. Mm-hmm. We have not even talked about the craziness. We are at post-Thanksgiving games, but we didn't even have a chance to talk about Week 12, and we're starting Week 13. We need to address some of the major things that happened last Sunday, starting with your beloved Commanders and my beloved Cowboys.
Man,
how many times have you seen a team quadruple their score total in the matter of 5 minutes.
That game confused me so much, and it gave me
It did.
it like when I don't know who the goober was for Dallas who decided, hey, I'm going to run this onside kick up for a touchdown so we can
To
give
score? Yeah, that
Washington
guy.
so we can give Washington another shot to score. I don't know what goober that was, but I do know the goober who coaches that team, and the fact that this man is even being said from the mouth of Jerry Jones. Yeah, I can see him being extended. No, not after 3 straight 12-5 seasons. No, not after that. No, let's lose 5 straight, get to barely the bottom of our division, and have almost no chance of making the playoffs. All right, we'll talk. We'll talk. Yeah, I got you right where I want you. I got a bad coach right where I want him. Yeah. And let me say this.
I mean, McCarthy, he's technically not lying. He never said he wasn't going to extend him. He said, I'm not going to extend him before the end of his contract. He's not lying.
So let's do it now when we're 4-7. That makes sense. I'm not saying McCarthy's a bad coach. He's not. But ever since that they lost that NFC Championship game to Atlanta in 2016, Mike McCarthy has not been the same guy. He's not been the same coach.
The Packers?
And so once they lost that championship game and lost their shot at conceivably winning a second Super Bowl, after that, he was with the Packers for 2 more years. They didn't make the playoffs at all. And then he goes to the Cowboys. He flounders that first year. He spouts off 3 straight 12-5 seasons. He's 1-3 in the playoffs. He's won 1 playoff game since he's been at Dallas, and he was there for 3 straight years. He won 1 playoff game, and now he's 4-7. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy was never a great coach, but whatever he used to have, it doesn't exist anymore. It's not there. Something's
it's like
missing.
He fell behind in the generation of coaching.
Yeah, it's the same argument they had when John Gruden came back and coached. They're like Chucky, you haven't been here in like a decade. Things have changed. And that was even I remember that was the argument given to Jerry Jones when they hired McCarthy in the first place. Because the game had changed. He had missed the playoff his last 2 seasons. He got fired that last season he was then, and then he took a year off, then came back to coaching.
I think it was more than 1. I think it was like 2 years. I think it's 2 years.
Was it 2 years?
He took off.
He took some time off, but the game had changed. It was different. It was way different, and he hadn't adapted to anything.
Well, here's the thing: the game was changing in front of his face, and that's why the Packers ended up not. He didn't leave the Packers organization on a great note because the game was changing in front of his face, and it looked like he was just in that moment not adapting, and then taking a break from football for 2 years, like complete break from football. This wasn't a Bill Belichick was just still analyzing games. He was completely out of football, and then coming back. That is a hard sell for you to be like, oh, I could jump right in. You're not that good, McCarthy. You are not that good to be able to say, I can jump right in and I'll kill it every year. I get the 12-5 record, but I've never seen a coach or anybody leave football completely for that long and come back and still be that stellar of any kind of position. Just look at Deshaun Watson being out of the league for 2 years. He can't get his mojo back. For as much as he tries, as much as he's exposed to football, there's nothing there for him.
Yeah.
The only exception you can say was Sean Payton recently, but again, still involved with football, and his break was literally 1 year, and then he went to the Broncos at that point. So
and Sean's
interesting position.
Sean's story is interesting too, just because of the ups and downs he had in New Orleans. He was gone for that 1 year. He came back. He was still coaching because he got suspended that 1 year and came back, still coaching. Then he had those years, post Breeze, and then it wasn't working out, and so he retired, and he said he was retiring. Then he ended up getting traded. So, but yeah, I think just some guys have that ability to be able to do that. And hey, if you're like me, a Saints fan, who's looking at why the F did they let go of Dan Campbell? Hey, Dallas let go of Sean Payton. So
that's true.
Remember that.
The Browns let go of Belichick. Like, it's all.
Remember that, Cowboy fans. The next time you say, man, I wish I had a guy like Sean, you did. You had a guy like Sean Payton.
You literally had him.
And I gotta tell
There's
you, if
another.
Sean Payton stays in Dallas, like he would have been there forever. He's from Dallas.
Oh,
like he would have.
Yeah.
He'd be lifetime coach there. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
but before we jump into this week, let's talk about another game from week 12, and that's the Packers 49ers game. The Packers look really good, and this will transition us perfectly into Thanksgiving, but the Packers look really good, and the Niners look completely miserably beat up and bad.
I think
my question, JB, is: are they making the playoffs? First off, are the Niners making the playoffs?
That's a question mark. Their only saving grace is the NFC West. That's it. That's their saving grace. And if they
have to win the division, you mean?
That's the only way they're going to make it. They're not going to make it as a wild card.
Because it's really in the NFC side. There's one playoff spot up for grabs. Like, being honest, the NFC North is going to fill up the entire playoffs. They're going to have a division winner, and they're going to for sure have two wild cards because the Vikings and the Packers and the Lions are all way above 500, and they're hanging tight. So there's really one spot left. So it's it could be
with Washington being 7-5. I guess conceivably there's a chance they can make the last wild card, but honestly, their best shot is to win their division. They're only a game out. Seattle, Arizona, both 6-5. San Francisco is still mercifully 5-6. And the Rams are 5-6. Like even in the wild card race, like they have to bypass the Rams and the Cardinals. Because the Niners are mathematically, they're in last place in the NFC West. Last place.
They are.
So their only shot to get there is through the division. That's it. And I gotta say this. I don't know what's wrong with Brock Purdy. I don't know how long he's really going to be out for. I don't know if it was just that last game. I don't know. It must have been so bad that a cortisone shot couldn't have stiffened him up because, I mean, Brock Purdy at 30% was better than Brandon Allen at 200%. So, but whatever's going on with Brock Purdy, I don't see why and I don't know the stories behind this. I don't know. Maybe they did, and he said no. But did John Lynch even reach out to Daniel Jones's people? Did he even was there a phone call? Was there anything there? Because when you look at,
say there was talks.
Because
I saw some report that said he was kind of.
I don't know. Because when you look at who the backup quarterback was for San Francisco last year. What's he doing right now? Oh, yeah, he's tearing up the NFC with Minnesota right now. 9-2. Steve Darnold was with San Francisco last year. And if I'm not mistaken, he was also a previously washed-up first-round quarterback. And Daniel Jones, same. And I'm not saying that I disagree with Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings bringing in Daniel Jones. I think it's a fantastic fit. I think it's wonderful. Because if there's anything that's going to help a quarterback actually achieve whatever potential that they actually have at the NFL level, it's to be in a competent organization. I'm just surprised that it was Minnesota that got him and not San Francisco. Because if you're San Francisco and your backup is Brandon Allen, why not go and get the guy? Yeah, he struggled in New York, but everyone's struggling with the Giants. They're a dumpster fire, just like the Jets are. If it weren't for the Jets, I mean, everyone would be paying attention to the Giant dumpster fire. But the Jets are there, so they're bigger. But if you're the Niners, if you're John Lynch, you're thinking, well, yeah, Daniel Jones has had his struggles, but he's also he has playoff experience. This guy has led the Giants to the playoffs, and
beat the Vikings.
Success.
He beat the Vikings.
So it's not as if he's just like some complete wash up. So I'm just surprised that he didn't end up with San Francisco. Again, I don't know what the story is.
Here's my thing with that. here's my thing with San Francisco, because you don't have to go that far to be looking at bringing in somebody else when you have Allen, who hasn't played football since 2021 when he was a backup for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's your backup, but people are acting like they don't also have Josh Dobbs in their roster that tore it up last year as he was being traded from team to team, and he was competitive, competent quarterback. Why didn't he start Dobbs instead of Allen? If you already have a beat-up team, you have a beat-up line, why would you not start a quarterback that can get out of the pocket and at least do something with his feet when you have so many missing pieces? That's the part that blows my mind, and that falls more on Kyle Shanahan and what decisions he's making about his quarterback position. I don't understand the Allen over Dobbs decision.
Is Dobbs still in San Francisco?
I could have sworn he's on their roster. I could be wrong, but last time I checked, he was on their either practice squad or he was their third quarterback.
Let me see.
Let's look at this real quick because
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, he's on there. Yep.
Yeah. He's there. Yep. Yeah, exactly. What is wrong with him? Unless I missed some major regression, he was pretty damn good as a backup quarterback the last couple of years. I don't know what he sees. Maybe he doesn't like the way he fits into his offense, but then why do you have him on your team if you don't have a good need for him? It just I think we need to start putting more pressure in the same way that we just had the same conversation about Mike McCarthy. We have to have the same conversation about Kyle Shanahan because he continuously has been good with his team, and I get he's made it to the Super Bowl, but some of the decisions making is sometimes questionable. There was a comparison that happened between Kyle Shanahan that kind of resonated a lot, and that was with why do I always blank on names? The freaking coach for Kansas City,
Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid. The comparison of Kyle Shanahan and Andy Reid during his time with the Eagles. If you remember during that time, Andy Reid he took the Eagles to NFC Championship after NFC Championship. They made a Super Bowl and they lost, and they finally got separated ways. And Andy Reid ended up being a better coach somewhere else. That's kind of the same situation I feel like we have with Kyle Shanahan with San Francisco. He's a really good coach. He's a really good coach, but for some reason with that team, it's just not happening.
Yeah. Well, according to the Niners, they had, going back to the preseason, they said that there was a competition for the number 2 between Dobbs and Allen, and but you can even see in the preseason and just in practice, Brandon Allen was getting the most snaps with the first team, and so they wholeheartedly just looked at Brandon Allen and said, no, this is our number 2. Which, to your point,
I don't know what they saw.
It's like last year. I mean, Josh Dobbs, he floundered there at the end, but he had his moments. And I know the Niners, they don't like how aggressive he is with the ball, and I think when you're extremely aggressive with trying to move the ball downfield, you tend to miss the short, easy throws. And I wonder if because San Francisco is geared toward a West Coast offense, if you have a quarterback who's aggressive like that and is going to miss those short, easy throws, then probably a good idea not to have the guy who's probably going to miss those short, easy throws. So, or at least has the propensity to do that. So I think that's why they did it. But again, this Niners team it's not all healthy. McCaffrey he's still got a ways to go.
Not 100%.
He's not 100% yet. With Ayuk gone, really Kittle is Kittle started, but Debo is
on and off.
He's hit or miss, and and this is the argument for Debo for a couple seasons now is, well, I don't know what Debo I'm going to get for some stretch. It could be a stretch where he's on fire and a stretch where he's I don't know where he is. So, but the decision to start Brandon Allen, when really, honestly, it's not an easy decision if you're Kyle Shanahan, because you lost Brock Purdy, you lost your starter, the one guy who conceivably gives you the best chance. Now, if Brock Purdy plays that game, I still think Green Bay wins it. I don't think Green Bay wins it by what? Would they win it by 80? It was like 38 to
They
10 or
won it by
something.
14 points. It was 10-24 at the end.
It was not 24 to 10. It's like 38. It was 38 to 10. It's 38 to 10.
38 to 10, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
38 to 10.
So it was I was like, it wasn't that close. But I still think Green Bay probably comes away with that game, but it's just but to your point with Kyle Shanahan, I've had my issue with Kyle Shanahan since he was Dan Quinn's OC in Atlanta. When Kyle Shanahan was the reason why Tom Brady came back and won that Super Bowl. That no one we don't talk about Bruno it's like we just like, oh, Tom Brady's great, and he is. He's the best to ever do it. But when you're down 28-3, there's a good chance that you're not gonna come back and win that one. You're not gonna. But when your OC doesn't adapt to the game, doesn't adapt to the style changes as the game goes on, yeah, you're gonna have a real big problem. Which is why, again, fast forward to last year's Super Bowl, the reason why they lost the Super Bowl last year. It's the reason why they lost. It's because of Kyle Shanahan's inability to adapt to the game as the game is happening. I'm not talking about just overall ethereally like Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy's failed to adapt to the game as it is as a whole. Kyle Shanahan fails to adapt to the game properly as the game is playing, as we're in it. And now you go from
he has like a straight up a playbook or like a strategy, a game plan for a week, and he does not deviate from it one bit. And the perfect example of that is what he's been doing since oh my god, names are killing me today. The running back McCarthy. McCaffrey. Jesus Christ. What is – I don't know. McCaffrey. Since McCaffrey came back, they have given Mason the ball 3 times in the last few games. And he's had like a 12-yard run, an 8-yard run, and a 6-yard run. Why aren't you giving Mason the ball more when McCaffrey does not look 100%? And he's still an explosive running back. That falls on Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion. It still falls on him once again. Why that is the current situation that they're running, considering they're a struggling football team right now. You're on the outside of the playoffs looking in, and you have a dominant running back. If you weren't going to use him, why didn't you trade him away and get something good if you were really going to let him sit in the background instead of taking advantage of a good piece that you have in your locker room? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I have no words for it. I don't understand it just as much as probably Niner fans understand it. There's so much about just coaching in general that there's large portions of this job that are extremely difficult because like you game plan an entire week for one opponent, all in an effort. For the end of the day, for it to come down to one play, for one mistake you made, whether you win, whether you lose. And, you going back to Matt Eberflus, you had a game plan, and it's not like Chicago's been out of these games. It's at the end of the game. There are the Caleb Williams is taking a sack where he shouldn't take a sack. Let's just go back to Eberflus here. 2 weeks in a row for two games in a row. They were down by 10 against Minnesota with 30 seconds left. And then they end up tying it. And then Caleb Williams takes a sack when he's like, what are you doing? And then you get to a game where you have a chance to beat a team with a better record than the Vikings. And you flub it by some nonsense for 32 seconds left in the game. And I understand. Look, I was watching that game and I was like, okay, hurry up. Caleb's doing, hurry up offense. Let's go. Let's just get to the line. And, he's just, okay, let's get to it so we can run a play. We can get to Santos's field goal line. And I'm like, okay, they have a timeout left. They're probably going to run this play, probably take a slant down the middle of the field, give up the yards, just slide, call timeout. And I totally understood what was happening there. But when it got to 8, 7, 6, I'm like, this is the last play of the game. They're not going to get anything else off. This is it. And so it's incredibly difficult. I have to imagine, to be a head coach, there's only 32 jobs in the entire world like this. And so to be one of the guys that you have the game plan every week in order for you to win one game against one opponent 1 week at a time, and it eventually pretty much always comes down to one play that you make, one play. And so, but at a certain point, you have to realize, okay, there's something about my coaching style while I'm coaching that's off. And I can empathize with the fact that you've done it so many times. You're in the moment. It's like parenting. You're like, oh, I got to change that as a parent. And then you get to the very next moment where it's like the previous one you had to change. And then you act the exact same way because you just ebbing and flowing like you usually do. So, I can understand that. But at a certain point, there's got to be something that says, okay, I have to change. Something's got to change here. Something. And so going back to the Niners now, I don't think the Niners are out of this. I think this team, if anything's keeping this team in it, it's the talent on the roster. This team is way too dang talented to not be involved in the playoff conversation. Unfortunately, now it looks like it's going to have to be through the NFC West. Yeah, you're going to have to win that division. If you do not win that division, I don't think you're going to win. I don't think you're in the playoffs. I just don't think you are.
No, there's no way. No.
So at least not the way this
shame on the Cardinals. Shame on the Cardinals over the last week they were leading the division when they went up against Seattle, and they had the perfect opportunity after the Niners lost to take a 2-game lead in that division and losing it and pretty much blowing that division wide open for every team to be in it. Having a 2-game lead in that division right now would be like having a 5-6 game lead in that division, because every single team in that division is about 500. 2 games above 500 would have been spectacular. You would be coasting to a division title. And the Cardinals looked like garbage against Seattle. Murray didn't even throw a touchdown at all during that game. It was mind-blowing how much they let Seattle completely dominate that game. And kudos to Seattle because that defense looks stellar. But I was mostly disappointed because I knew if the Cardinals won that game, considering the struggles of the 49ers, they had a chokehold on that division to just dominate it. And they didn't take advantage of it. It was very disheartening to see how almost like they rolled over and let that game go the way it did. It's crazy. But enough about week 12. We had 3 games for Thanksgiving. We had the Dolphins, the Packers, with the Cowboys and Giants, and then the game that we've been talking about, the Bears and Lions.
Yeah.
2 things about this weekend. I don't want the Cowboys to keep winning. I'm glad that they continue to beat the Giants. Nothing makes me happier than the Commanders being like 2-20 against the Cowboys, since they have Dak Prescott as a quarterback, and beating the Giants anytime they get that. But you're not making the playoffs. What are we trying to do here? Because we know you're not making the playoffs. For the same reason that the Niners can't make the playoffs right now unless they win the division, Cowboys, you're not making the playoffs, and Cowboys fans are like, oh, we go on 2 in a row. I don't want to hear it. Secondly, what is going on with the Dolphins? Why is a little goosebumps on your skin cause a whole team to shut down as an organization and not be able to score points and do anything? They can't win a game that's not in a sunny beach day. What is going on with that team?
What is there? I wish I had their home record here. I don't see it anywhere.
It's crazy. I don't have it in front of me either, but their records are mind-boggling. And they're 0-7 in the last 7 games that the temperature's been like below 32 degrees or something crazy like that. They said they bought like 3,500 pounds of cold weather gear to keep their players warm. Nothing's gonna fix what the hell goes on in Miami, apparently.
Yeah. I honestly, I have no idea. I don't know. I watched that game last night, and for the second time in 4 days, Green Bay looks like just this unbeatable team. When, like, I'm not saying Green Bay is a bad team. Like, as long as you have Josh Jacobs in the backfield and he's doing his thing, Green Bay is always going to have a chance to win. But I think, and kudos for Green Bay to take advantage of the fact that you played, two subpar opponents in 4 days, and you took advantage of both of them.
Yeah.
Matt LaFleur had his team ready to go, and they attacked. But I just, it's just like usually, and I bring it up because usually you'll look at teams and you'll see that they won, and you'll be like, oh, hey, that's just a great football team. This is, I think, more about the Packers taking advantage of just situation and just understanding that, okay, we have a chance to still keep pace, not just in the NFC playoff picture, but but in our own division. And so, so now what the NFC North is, it's the Lions at 11-1, the Vikings at 9-2, the Packers at 9-3. So this is going to be, this division is fun to watch. I mean, it is a powerhouse. But to be able to, but just if you're the Dolphins, it's like I know we spend all this time, worrying about, oh well, if Tua's healthy, is he going to come back? And and look, I mean, granted, Miami's best shot at winning anything is with Tua behind center. That's not.
We saw that in action very recently.
Yeah, and so, but it's just one of those things where, I think at some point you're going to have to ask the question, even with Tua healthy, is he still the guy that's going to help Miami get to the next level? Because he's not an incompetent quarterback, but there's just something about his game. And I don't know if he's skittish. I don't know if it's just something about the fact that he's had 3 concussions in 3 years. And he's, maybe somewhere in the back of his mind, he's worried about that. I don't know. But there's something there that if you are Mike McDaniel and you're looking at this roster and you're thinking, well, is Tua the guy? Is he the guy that's going to get us to the next level? And from what I'm watching, unless they play all their games in the sunny state of Florida, I don't know. I don't know if that's, I mean, I honestly don't know if he is or not. But I think that's a real question to ask. And I think we weren't really paying attention to that because we were more concerned about his health. And I understand that. His health is of way more importance than his play on the field. But when he's healthy, are we looking at the play on the field and saying, this is the guy? Are we saying this is the guy? And so and it's hard to ask that because if you're Miami, you're like, well, for us, yeah, he is now because he's our best chance of winning. I'm like, but okay. But eventually you're going to have to ask the question. You're going to have to. You're going to have to have all things being equal, is Tua the guy to lead us to the next level?
Yeah.
Because as much as I can't stand Tyreek, I mean, the dude is a baller. And you are wasting really good years with this guy. You're not going to have him forever. It's just not going to happen. And so, I don't know. That's a question to ask. I think that's a really important question.
It's very similar in the same way this conversation between these two players is in line with each other. For the same reason that Dak with the Cowboys gets so much heat constantly, this is the same story that we have about Tua with the Dolphins. You're good, but at some point, your level of skill and your goodness, for lack of a better word, hits a certain speed bump that is just too much for you. Dak, playoffs, Tua, competitive teams. I don't know where that speed bump is, but there's a certain level that quarterbacks peak at, and Tua, we regularly see where that peak is at and where he can't get past that bump. In the same way that Dak, for some reason, in the playoffs collapses as a competent quarterback, no matter what type of offense and what team he has behind him. Those two players deserve to have the same type of narrative behind behind their skill level and behind how good they are for their respective teams, I think.
Yeah. No, I just looked up that stat. He's 0-7 in games when it's 45 and below.
45. I thought it was a little bit colder. 45.
He's 0-4 when it's 40 or lower. He's 36-15 when the high temperature exceeds 45 degrees. So
there you go. There you go. Great
yeah.
sunny boy.
So let's just look at this. He is. So what is he? Does this mean he's 36-22 as a starter? Yeah, he's 36-22 as a starter, and then I believe last year was his best year because that was the year he was healthy. He was healthy that year, and so
but then got destroyed by the Chiefs in the cold.
Yeah, it's and like I said, nothing against Tua. Tua's done a lot. Him and Bryce Young have done a lot to change the tide as to how we see Alabama quarterbacks. For the longest time, like Alabama quarterbacks don't translate. So Tua and Bryce have done a lot to get us to a place where we can say, hey, maybe an Alabama quarterback can have some success in NFL. Like Alabama can consistently produce guys behind the center who can come in the NFL and produce. So and maybe that's part of I don't know why we're talking about Tua so much, but maybe that's part of the narrative with him of why we're like, man, Tua's a good quarterback because he came from Alabama. He was an Alabama quarterback, and for so long they have not been able to generate and produce an NFL steady quarterback. And so I don't know if that's part of the equation here. I don't know if you're just, as a Miami fan, looking at it like, no, as long as we got Tua, he's our safety blanket, we have a chance to win. Because look, I mean, he's 36-15 when the temperature exceeds 45. So when the high temperature is 45 or higher, he's got you. But you got to look at the teams in the AFC or the powerhouses. Buffalo plays outside. Kansas City plays outside. Baltimore plays outside. Pittsburgh plays outside. Cincinnati, when they try, plays outside. And then New England for eons play outside. This if you are going to have any chance to have some success, the success that matters, the success that breeds longevity in the NFL as a quarterback, you're going to have to play in cold weather. You're going to have to.
Their entire division plays outside.
Huh?
Their entire division plays outside. The Jets, the Patriots, the Bills. You're going to have to go through an outside team.
We're not going to face the Jets on the road for any meaningful game. That's not.
I'm just saying, if you want to be competitive, the first start is winning your division. You got to win outside games in your division, considering where the rest of your teams are.
Yeah.
But you know what? You are right, though. Yeah. You're right. We're giving Tua a whole lot of heat, considering the fact that ultimately the Packers were a better team, and they reflected that on Thanksgiving night. So enough about Tua. We're here to talk football, JB. And football does not live in one dimension. There is another side of football that we must talk about, and that is college football. Let's start by giving JB, once again, his mighty, glorious dozen roses flowers. As he JB went 3-0 over the past week with our key matchups to watch. I was watching two of them, and once those two fell, I'm like, JB might actually have nailed every single one of these picks. And then Kansas dominating Colorado, that's when I knew you were onto something great. Kudos to you, JB.
Thank you.
What in your heart had you pick those matchups in a way that you were on point so well? You honestly, the one that surprised me the most was the Kansas Colorado game, where you said Kansas was gonna. You didn't say dominate, but you seemed very confident at the fact that Kansas had a very good chance of beating that team.
Yeah. No. So let's start with the OSU Indiana game. It is so well, when you look at the schedules, there's nothing that stood out to me that said, okay, Indiana has a chance to be able to be a formidable foe in this game. And
Right.
what changed, and what I didn't consider, but what absolutely helped um, uh, my picks in this is the defensive coordinator for Ohio State, Jim Knowles. He turned on the blitz last Saturday, and if you look at this Ohio State defense, they look a lot differently now later on in this season than they did at the beginning of the season. Like, they lost that Oregon game 32-31. If Jim Knowles had that defense turned on where they were blitzing Dylan Gabriel, and I've seen Dylan Gabriel under pressure. He makes some mistakes when he's under pressure, and especially as a left-handed thrower, it's a little bit more difficult. Mm-hmm. And so if Jim Knowles turned up the heat, there's no reason Ohio State shouldn't be undefeated right now. And so going forward for the rest of this season and into the playoffs, if that defense responds like they did against Indiana, because Indiana was no just put away either. They were averaging more than 50 points a game. It was a high-powered offense, and Ohio State shut them down. And it's because of what Jim Knowles did was the reason why that they shut them down even more than I even anticipated they would. I thought it would be Indiana probably get maybe 20 points. I think I called the game 21-17. I think I said it was going to be. I thought maybe Indiana had a chance to get to 20 points, maybe close to 30. But the way Ohio State, they showed up in that game, that defense especially, I was like, yeah, Indiana's got no shot. They have no chance in this at all. So,
it was not close.
It wasn't close at all. It was not. With the Kansas game, so like I said, I said on the pod that it was going to that this was going to be the third straight. This was the third straight top 25 matchup that Kansas was going to be playing, and they came out on top in those previous two. And the way that Kansas has played so far, their offense is actually it's not a bad offense at all. They just make way too many mistakes when it counts. And so when you look at a Kansas Jayhawk team that was going into that game as a 4-6 team, who was it? Bill Parcells says you are what your record says you are. Mm-hmm. Kansas was a team that really makes the argument, but we're not. And so, because their offense was one that was pretty high up nationally, and on the offensive side, but when it came down to it, it was mistakes. They made too many mistakes. And didn't I text you saying all these field goals ain't going to help?
You did.
These field goals ain't going to help Kansas. And and eventually Kansas figured it out, and they were able to get the ball in the end zone. But that's part of the problem, is that they could get to the red zone with relative ease, it seemed. But then once they got there, and of course the field shortens, and so what are you going to do for that? But I figured maybe Kansas had figured something out. Maybe Leipold had figured something out with this Kansas team, and he was able to instill in them some more confidence going into the fact that they had just beat two previous top 25 teams, and then here you go, you get to play a third straight one, and by the by, we get to play spoiler here. So so let's go out here and attack. And so I even when I made the prediction, I had a pretty good confidence that Kansas was going to come out on top. I didn't feel confident watching that first half when field goal after field goal after field goal in the red zone. I'm like, well, this isn't going to help you any, because Travis Hunter is still a human being and he exists on this planet and he's still going to do things. So, but Kansas coming out on top, I was like, okay, I'm satisfied. And then once Kansas beat Colorado, I was like, I'll watch the first 10 minutes of this Notre Dame Army game, and then I'll know everything I need to know about what's about to happen. And I got to tell you, so I forgot who was calling that game. I forgot who was
I
calling
don't
that
know.
game. Was it Kirk Herbstreit? Was it him and
It
Chris
might have been
Fowler
because
calling that
it
game?
was a late
I think it was.
afternoon game, so it could have been
Yeah,
him. He usually calls the afternoon games.
whoever it was, and maybe this is a different game, but they were like, "Hey, if you're gonna be, uh, it if you can't do more than one thing well, be the best at the one thing." And
Right.
Al Golden looked at Army and said, "Well, I know you're gonna run the ball. Show me what you got. Show me what you got." And Army showed, and Al was like, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. You have a safe flight home.
Click.
Well, or really a drive. I mean, there's driving to West Point, but it was just what it was at, like, even before the halftime. I was like, I'm done. This is
It was
not a
not
game. Out
another
of all
not
three
close.
games, honestly, out of all three games that we talked about last week for pick'ems, that one was the easiest one for me. I just did not see Army having any shot, and no disrespect to Army, but when you can't throw the football, when you are absolutely one dimensional, and not only one dimensional, but one person is one dimensional on the one side of the
Yeah.
ball, yeah, that's a problem, especially against Al Golden's defense. Like, this is the reason why, Notre Dame's defense has really stood um, uh, since Marcus Freeman moved over to the head coaching position, because it's like, okay, well, we're going to keep the same scheme. Everything's going to be the same. And if anything, this is how we're going to win. And that's how Notre Dame wins.
There you go. See, the thing about I was very disheartened. I sat here and fought you tooth and nail, telling you I have a feeling Colorado had a very good chance of winning that game, and you stood your ground and said no. Kansas. I have a feeling Kansas is going to win the game, and they ended up losing. Here's the part that stresses me out the most. Based off of how all the cards had fallen that weekend, it was the prime opportunity for Colorado to live up to the potential of being able to win the conference and make the playoff. BYU lost, Iowa State lost, Arizona snuck in, and I think Arizona beat BYU. Either way, by Colorado winning that game, they would have had one game to decide their fate. They would have had to win this weekend, and right now they're playing today and they're destroying. They're at halftime and it's 45-0, something crazy right now. So it was the prime opportunity for Colorado to cement themselves in the position to decide their own fate, based off the fact that all the other teams that were in it lost, and yet they decided to. I don't even know what to call it. They decided to half-ass play that game. It did not look like the Colorado team that had won 5 or 6 in a row prior to that game. It looked like a completely different Colorado team. And based off of that, now that conference is a complete cluster of teams at the top. Four teams are crowded at the top, 5 teams, including Baylor. And there's really only one path for Colorado to sneak into the conference championship at this point. They need, I think it's BYU, because it's a virtual tie across the board. They need only if BYU loses, does Colorado have a chance to make the conference championship.
Yeah.
It's disheartening that with it being in their hands at that moment, that the way that they played to not be competitive. It was such a missed opportunity. It just blew my mind how big of a opportunity they missed out by one single game. And kudos to Kansas for playing the type of game that they did. They fully deserved that win. The final score doesn't really reflect the type of game that was, because the first half was all Kansas. Colorado found a way to kind of get back into it, but it was really not. It was not as close as the score might tell a team it was. It was completely one team dominating the other. And like you said, they ended up kicking field goals, and it was just enough to make the game competitive, but it really wasn't. If they wanted to be more aggressive and start going for fourth downs and playing aggressive the entire game, it would have been a way bigger blowout than what it ended up being. But on your three,
I want to give a shout out to Devin Neal, who was a Lawrence, Kansas kid, local kid who went to Kansas 4 years ago to change the program, put the program on the map. and Devin Neal absolutely made a statement against Colorado last Saturday, and I'm pulling for Kansas to win one more to be bowl eligible. That would be great for Devin Neal and the rest of those seniors to get a win, to get a bowl game victory before they leave. And hats off to Lance Leipold, what he's done in Kansas. And I only see it getting better over there.
There you go. Yeah, you are right. But on that note, I'm going to challenge you once again, JB. Without you being prepared, I am going to put you on the spot and put you in a position to go 3-0. I'm giving you a couple softballs, but some others that you might not be able to
softballs. Just give me the games.
Wait, there's just based off of the matchups. First off, let's bring it all back. I want the first game that we want to keep our eyes on to be the Ohio State-Michigan game, with Ryan Day being 1-2 against Michigan.
Yeah.
Now that John Harbaugh is out of Michigan, is he going to put his record at 500 against the team from up north, or is Michigan somehow going to continue to dominate Ohio State?
Ohio State's going to win this game. The moment, and I'm going to go back to Jim Knowles, the moment that Jim Knowles unlocked something on that defensive side of the football for his guys against Indiana, I'm like, this is going to be trouble for Michigan. This is going to be trouble. And so Michigan seems to forget that they have running backs. They seem to abandon that from time to time. And so, but even still, I think those Ohio State defenders are going to get there super quick, and it's going to be one of those. I forgot who was the guy who was the OSU defender who was just disrupting Indiana. Let me get his name. Let me see.
Here's the thing about the Michigan-Ohio State, as you look that up. Michigan has dominated that rivalry. Michigan is 56-27 against Ohio State, so it's consistently been a Michigan rivalry. And like I said, with with Harbaugh being there as the head coach, it was completely one-sided during that time. I think Ohio State, the one year that they won, it was a very close game. I can't remember exactly which one it was, and I'm not looking it up because it's not necessarily a strong point to need the details on. But ultimately, Michigan has dominated that matchup, and like I said, Ryan Day is 1-2, so he's. They always say for that rivalry, you could lose the rest of your games as long as you beat that other team. For both sides, Michigan and Ohio State, if you beat that team, you might as well secure that you're not going to get fired that year, because that's really the priority number one in between that rivalry.
Yeah, no, I have. It was Cody Simon. He was the linebacker that just went off, and so I know Michigan's defense has done a good job at neutralizing their opponents this year, but the offensive side of the ball for Ohio State is just way more talented.
It is.
There's just too much there. And it's not to Michigan's fault. I mean, their entire offense went in the first round last year. So it's like, what are you going to do? And so it's just one of those things where I think, especially after seeing what Jim Knowles did against Indiana, this and like I said, Michigan's done a good job at neutralizing all season. Ohio State's defense has only gotten better throughout the season, and it just about peaked last Saturday. So what we're going to see, I think we'll see even more against Michigan. Which is why I have Michigan winning that game.
There you go. Your next pick of Watchum's college football. Alabama and Auburn. Alabama lost, and I am not confident that the Alabama that we were somewhat convinced was still going to be competitive is actually the team that we're witnessing right now. Again, another key matchup. Auburn, Alabama always play each other tough. The Iron Bowl with Auburn returned the 59-yard goal to steal that win from Alabama still resonates strong with the Auburn fans. It is still a proudful moment. And like I said, no matter how good one team or the other is, that game is a coin toss of which way it's going to go. So what says you on that matchup for this weekend?
Whew. I would love to pick Auburn in this game. I really would. Did you watch that A&M game last weekend?
No, that's not one of the ones that I was watching.
That 4 overtime game. So my wife and I watched 6 games last Saturday, and the Auburn game was the last one that we watched. It was quadruple overtime, and look, it's, I love these rivalry bowl games, and when you look at the records, when you look at the standings, yeah, Alabama's on top; they're still ranked. Auburn's at the bottom, but Alabama's 4-3 in the conference. Auburn's 2-5, and they just beat A&M. And so, where's this game being played at? By the way,
I want to say it's at Alabama.
Is it in Bama? It's
Let's
in Bama.
look it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's in Bama.
Yep.
I'm going to pick
Denny venue. Yeah. It's Auburn and Alabama. Oh, you lost JB for a second. Hopefully he comes back in.
Did you lose me? I'm right here.
3, 2,
I'm right
1.
here.
There you go. Your camera cut off as we were.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna pick Alabama in this one.
Okay.
As much as my heart would love for Auburn to win this one, I think there is. I don't think Kalen DeBoer is going to allow Alabama to come out and lay another egg, especially after they did against Oklahoma. That just can't happen. It can't happen.
They got obliterated. They're not look competitive.
Yeah, that was the 5th game that we watched. That game was unreal. I
tried watching that game. It was not. I turned that game off.
I watched it for entertainment factor. I mean, anytime you see Alabama go down 24-3 at one point to a cellar dweller in the SEC, yeah, it's fun to see. But it's but after what I saw against Auburn and then there were some in that Alabama-Oklahoma game, there were some egregious calls from those refs. Sure, egregious calls against Alabama.
Difference.
Not a 30-point difference. No, not at all. And I'm not saying that's the reason they lost. They lost because they got outplayed. Oklahoma outplayed them. That's what happened. Simple enough. But I don't see Kalen DeBoer losing the Iron Bowl at home in his first year there. It cannot happen. It can't happen. It can happen, but it can't. It can't happen. It can't happen in the theoretical sense, but it can't happen in an everything else kind of sense.
It better not happen. What you're saying.
And so, but what I saw against Auburn, against A&M, they seem to have a real problem with wanting to rely on Peyton Thorne. They want Peyton Thorne to be the man of Auburn. When you have a guy named Jarquez Hunter in the backfield who will run over you, no problem. Just give him the assignment, tell him who to run over, and he'll do it. And there were a few plays in that game where I'm like, why are you not giving it to Hunter? You're on the 2-yard line. Just give it to the man. Even if it takes 2 downs, like two downs to actually get into the end zone, okay, Jarquez is going to do it. So this is going to come down to gameplay. It's come down to game calling. And as we referenced earlier in the episode with the NFL portion, coaches have a knack for leaning on whatever they've been leaning on for so long and not changing in the moment. And so, and I'm not saying it's going to come down to Jarquez Hunter, Alabama or Auburn at the goal line, Jarquez Hunter or Peyton Thorne, who's going to have the ball to win the game. I think Alabama wins this game handedly. But so with that, my pick is Alabama.
Okay. I mean, I would love to. I'm with you. Anytime I get to see Alabama lose lose, I'm happy. I don't even have anything against Alabama. I just got tired of them being so dominant. They need to come back to earth for a few years and miss out on the playoffs for once in their life.
Yeah. Let me put it this way. You're asking me who I think is going to win. I think it's Alabama. This is the one time I would be happy to be wrong. I would be happy to watch Auburn march into Bryant-Denny Stadium and just put a whooping on Alabama. Yeah. I would love to see that.
Agreed. We can agree on that point. So for the last game, I was this close from giving you the matchup of Texas versus Texas A&M.
I really thought you were going to give me that one.
I really was. But let's be honest. As much as Texas has been kind of a roller coaster of a season, they're a very dominant team. I would
roller coaster. I mean, maybe emotionally while you're watching the game, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And who they got obliterated by Georgia, not very competitive fashion. Ultimately this game is the right to play Georgia in the SEC title, but. Mm-hmm. Because I think we both can agree on where that game's going to go. The matchup I'm going to give you is going to be Clemson versus South Carolina. 2 ranked teams. Clemson has a chance to play for the ACC title. South Carolina is 4th in the SEC, trying to place themselves in a more competitive factor when it comes to that conference. So, what say you, JB, on a 15 South Carolina versus a 12th ranked Clemson?
So Clemson, look, I know folks, they're 9-2. I get it. They're 7-1 in the ACC. I understand. Okay. But, for some reason I can never quite get a handle on this team. I can never really quite get a handle on who Clemson is. And Cade Klubnik has done a phenomenal job as a quarterback for Clemson this season. He should be able to reach 3,000 yards passing in this game alone for the season. So, But when you have 29 touchdowns against 4 interceptions and 151 quarterback rating, that's a pretty damn good year, especially coming into this season when there were so many questions on if Cade can be the guy for Clemson. And so with that said, South Carolina's got something brewing. They have got something brewing, and this is not going to be like the Clemson South Carolina games of old, I presume, because South Carolina they're on the rise, and when we came into this season, I said that the one. That the difference maker for South Carolina was going to be the play in the health of Lenora Sellers. If the South Carolina QB could be healthy enough, and produce like many projected that he could, he came in as he wasn't considered a dark horse Heisman winner, but he was one of those guys that's like, okay, let's see what Lenora Sellers was coming in. This dude's got talent. He's got an arm for days. He's got legs for days. His passing yards aren't as much as Cade, but it's because, Lenora Sellers also runs the ball like a madman. And so when I'm looking at this game, I'm looking at who's going to show up. Is it going to be Cade, or is it going to be Lenore's? And this is going to come down to, because where is this game being played? Is this game being played in South Carolina? It was being played in Clemson. This is Clemson. Okay. So I know South Carolina's won 6 straight. Are they in a 6-game winning streak? I think it is.
Let me look at the record.
6 games, 5-game winning streak. On a 5-game winning streak. So, and in that time they beat A&M. They beat A&M soundly 44-20 and then he beat Missouri 34-30, which Missouri is like, I'm not really sure what to make of them ever. I'm gonna pick Clemson in this one.
Okay.
I love what's being built in South Carolina. And if I'm not mistaken, Lenore's still has a couple years left of eligibility at that quarterback position. So Shane Beamer has done a great job at South Carolina, at being able to turn this franchise or this program around. And he's lucky to go from Spencer Rattler to Lenore Sellers. I think if you're a head coach who develops quarterbacks, you couldn't really ask for like a better back-to-back pairing than that right there. But what Dabo Swinney is doing in Clemson, and especially after what happened with that program last year, when it was really it was a disappointment in Clemson standards.
Oh yeah.
The fact that Cade Klubnik is he doesn't get nearly as much attention as I think he warrants. He's done so much for this team, but so because of that, I'm going to go with Clemson winning this game in Memorial, and let's say what 28-23 Clemson.
Oh, okay. Close game.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be a walloping, but I think and I don't think the game is going to be as close as the score would indicate. I think it's going to be my son in the hallway yelling for no ungodly reason. But I think Clemson's they're gonna win this game, and they're gonna finish this regular season with 10 wins.
That will, if I'm not mistaken, that'll lock them into the ACC championship, which gives them a really good chance to make the playoff and come back to the Clemson of old, where they were. When's the last time they actually made the playoff? The year with Trevor Lawrence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been a minute, 4 or 5 years. So
yeah,
it would be good to see Clemson
if they beat
again.
Yeah, if Clemson beats South Carolina, then I see no reason for Clemson not to make the playoff, aside from if they lose the ACC championship.
Because right now the ACC championship I think the other side is still up for grabs between SMU and Miami. I think based off of how they finished this week, it's still a toss up on who will be that matchup. But if Clemson win, it'll be between them two. Well, if Clemson doesn't win that conference, I don't think they'll make the playoff. But just on the Clemson side, I miss Clemson being the competitive outside factor on the playoff picture, because for so many years, well, really always, the SEC dominates the playoff, and now with the 12-team playoff, the SEC has kind of taken almost a back seat, considering all the changes that have happened. Texas and Georgia being the most dominant SEC teams right now. Alabama doesn't look like the Alabama of old. So if Clemson can take advantage of that situation and kind of cement themselves as another power, once again the powerhouse of the playoffs, that'd be a good time. I don't like seeing the SEC dominate any type of championship playoff, no matter the format that they're in. So you are going with you're taking Clemson, you're taking Alabama, and you are taking, what was it, third game I gave you? It was the Michigan, Ohio. You're taking Ohio State.
It was OSU.
Clemson, Ohio State, Clemson, and Alabama. So we're going to remember this, and we'll keep tabs on it.
And and here's my last point on the Clemson pick. Clemson's only played one ranked team this season, and that was Georgia. The beginning of the season when Georgia was number 1, and they got shellacked 34-3. It's a close game. So it was a close game for Georgia. It was too close. But if you're Dabo Swinney and you're looking at the fact that we're 9-2, we're the 12th ranked team in the nation. But and to go back to your point about the ACC championship, their schedule really doesn't bounce off well against others.
Nope.
Within that top 16. And so if you're Dabo, you're like, no, we have to win this game. We will win this game.
You need the conference.
And
you need the conference.
Yeah. And so being able to win this game is going to go a long way, regardless of what happens after. This game's going to go a long way in helping Clemson, if they win, helping their argument to make the playoff.
Right. On that note, we will wrap up our football talk. And with Thanksgiving being in the rearview mirror, it is officially holiday season. So this year, or this week, I should say, we are changing up our fix of 6. This week, JB, tell everybody how we're going to change our fix of 6.
Yes. So for this segment of Fix of 6 is going to be a special one where we are not going to do just a sports-related type. It can be sports-related if we so choose. But we are going to do our top 3 things each, our Fix of 6, on what we are most excited about now that Thanksgiving is over, heading into the rest of the calendar year. So with that, Manny, kick us off.
On Manny's holiday, all-inclusive holiday Fix of 6, my number 3 Fix of 6 is the tradition of a Secret Santa. We have 2 Secret Santas this year. One on my partner's side and my family's side. Both families are doing a Secret Santa, and we keep it 100% secret. We were doing something a little bit different on his side, but this year, completely secret. And I can't tell you how exciting it is to keep a secret for about 2 months of buying the perfect gift for somebody and then watching their face open, with their face light up as they open a gift. So Secret Santa is my number 3 Fix of 6. On Manny's number 2 Fix of 6, I have to go with Christmas decorations and Christmas lights. Exterior. Interior is like a personal touch because not many people get to see it. But exterior is for everybody that wants to see it to enjoy the Christmas lights. As you know, JB, I don't have any kids of my own, but we still go all out on our Christmas decorations outside to the point. We recently moved to the house that we currently live in. I think this is our second Christmas here, and we are to the point where our neighbors are telling us, hey, you guys are late for your Christmas decorations this year. You guys are... You're all, like we've already cemented ourselves as the marquee of Christmas decorating outside, and it's not. I couldn't be prouder of ourselves for taking that title. Our neighbor walked up to us last week. We were decorating last Saturday as we were watching college football, but we were throwing up all the outdoor decorations, and our neighbor 2 houses over said, "Hey, you guys are late to decorating your Christmas. Normally you decorate 2 weeks before Thanksgiving." And I told her, yeah, we're trying to catch up. She said, I am going to just put a little arrow at my front yard and put ditto and point towards your house, and that could not make me any happier. And every year we buy more and more Christmas decorations. So that is my number 2 Fix 6 holiday edition. And number 1 Fix of 6 for the holidays, it has to be, I'm stuck. This might be petty of me to say. The time off and how the holidays line up to be away from work is a beauty. When the holiday lands in between the week and you just take 5 days off and check out for the other 7 between Christmas Eve and New Year's is a great, great time. But considering myself, my number 1 Fix of 6 will have to be given to all the great food that we're experiencing, starting with yesterday. Turkey, ham, stuffing, all the pies. The only acceptable time of the year where you can eat 4 full course meals in one day and nobody will judge you. Food has to be my number 1 Fix of 6. And with Thanksgiving being gone, I can't wait to the cuisine that is put in front of me for the Christmas holidays. So those will be my 3 picks of 6. JB, it is your turn.
That's a wonderful list, man. There's some good picks too. JB's number 3 holiday fix of 6. The MLB winter meetings are happening in 2 weeks. And as a man who has professed to love baseball as much as he says he does, I can't explain how much I actually love the game of baseball. And I'm excited about this season, especially because I'm hearing there's going to be some moves made, some dollars thrown out, some franchises changed, some faces of franchises altered. This is going to be, I hope to all things St. Nicholas that this is going to be a winter meetings for me to remember. JB's number 2 holiday fix of 6. Die Hard. This is the one time a year you get to watch Die Hard because it's a Christmas movie. And I can't wait to sit on the couch and drink mimosas. That's right. I drink mimosas. Drink mimosas all day long watching Die Hard. It's going to be a really great day. JB's number 1 holiday fix of 6. The River of Lights here in LA.
I love it.
I love it. And I love it equally, too, because it's so dark that no one pays attention to you if you're smoking a cigar and drinking spiked hot chocolate from a flask, which I did last year. And so I am looking forward to lighting up a stogie in public once again while I watch the lights and wonder why my children look at these things as if they've never seen them before. And so this is your holiday edition of JB and Manny's Fix of 6.
I love it. I don't agree with the Die Hard, but River of Lights, marquee for those of you that don't know it, it's not competitive nationwide, but it's what we got here. It is the cornerstone of New Mexico Christmas tradition. So, yeah, I have to go with that. The sneaking in the hot chocolate in the flask, great point to make. I have not done the flask in my pocket yet, but I will this year. So
I do it every time I can. I'm trying to find a wooden flask that can get past security at concerts. So I...
Nice. Oh, that's good stuff. Yeah, you can't hate on a River of Lights. If you really walked it, you could probably walk it in like 10 minutes. But it's a good time. They serve you alcohol if you want to pay for the alcohol.
It's a great way to spend $100.
Exactly. Yeah, with all the children and stuff, and the food and the drinks, you'll never feel better than the River of Lights for paying $20 for a spiked hot chocolate. That's just how it goes around here.
Or just buy the hot chocolate and bring a flask full of bourbon cream.
That's
right.
It
works the same.
$5 non-spiked hot chocolate or $20 spiked chocolate. That is how we roll around here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
That wraps up our Fix of 6, JB. I loved it. I love it. On that note, we have to get out of here. It's a Friday of a long weekend. Let's wrap it up. Enjoy the weekend. JB, tell everybody where they can find this episode.
You can find this episode, the video and audio versions, on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon, and also the full video version on YouTube. And you can find our content on both TikTok and Instagram, BSB Sports 24. Mm-hmm. If you search for us on the pod platforms, it's Box Scores and Bourbon, TikTok and Instagram, BSB Sports 24. Manny, what were you drinking today?
JB, you might be disappointed in me, but it is the bottle that we have been enjoying this weekend. As much as you don't like mixing your whiskey, I brought out a Bullet old-fashioned cocktail mix.
Ooh, I didn't know they had that.
It's so good.
My wife would love that.
I think she would. Bullet's
her favorite thing to mix. Like, she loves it.
Yeah, there you go. It's a perfect cocktail. It still has a very dominant taste of the whiskey. They don't wash it down too much. It's not too fruity, not too many like juices and stuff. But it's really subtle with all those flavors to where I actually ended up drinking mine neat. And that is a rare occasion when I drink anything neat.
It is a
But
rare
it's just
occasion. Yeah.
it is very an easy drink. So I actually
Yeah.
ended up using it as the way to close out the Thanksgiving weekend because we popped this open in our household as our evening drink for the
Nice.
last 3 days. So yeah, that was what I was drinking. What were you drinking?
I was drinking some shelled egg. It's a scotch. It's a very peaty scotch, and I love my scotch to taste like a campfire. It is delicious. And what I was smoking was an Arturo Fuente, just a little Lanzaro. It is, of course, Friday, which makes it Fuente Friday. So I
There
went
you
to
go.
celebrate on the pod, and it's smoke a Fuente. But
JB, do you
Manny,
have the
close us out.
bottle in front of you? Do you have your bottle in
I
front of you?
don't have the bottle. I
Dang
don't.
it! I wanted to
I
see the
don't.
bottle. You'll have to owe me
I
that because
don't.
I want to see what that looks like. Well,
Yeah.
anyways, happy holidays for those of you that partake in the skipping the Thanksgiving part and start just blowing up the Christmas traditions. Kudos to you. We do the same around here. Hope
That's
you
what we're
enjoy
doing
our
today.
episode. Yeah, exactly. We love spending time with you. We are going on Friday today because we could not take time away from our families. It's not okay. We do not take away time from our families to film a podcast. So we skipped a day. Hopefully y'all don't mind. We're filming on Friday. You can still enjoy us on all the platforms that JB gave us. We are heating up towards college football playoffs and conference championships. So we will be judging every single team that F's up over the next 2 weeks. And you will be here to hear both of us talking smack about as many teams as possible. NFL, you have 5 weeks left. It's turning up. Teams are starting to be eliminated. First team out of the playoffs, the New York Giants. I could not end this episode on a higher note than saying the New York Giants were the first team eliminated from playoff contention. And on that note, cheers, everyone. We will see you on the other side.